the young and the restless spoilers shock. Sharon Newman had long held a plan, twisted and deranged, to harm Daniel and punish his daughter, Lucy. Fueled by paranoia and resentment, Sharon had been descending deeper into the abyss of her mental illness. Her actions became erratic, driven by fear and her internal struggles, but she was fully aware of one thing: she couldn't face Daniel in a direct confrontation. He was stronger, physically capable, and if it came down to a fight, Sharon knew she would lose. She needed to be more cunning, more deceptive. For days, Sharon had contemplated her revenge, but hesitated, haunted by her own fears. She feared what Cameron, a figure from her past who still haunted her thoughts, would do if he discovered her plot. The dread of facing his wrath made Sharon second-guess every step. So when she finally decided to go through with her plan, she did so haphazardly, as if part of her still wanted an excuse to pull back. Sharon approached Daniel with a false apology, masking her true intentions behind a smile. She feigned remorse, telling him that she wanted to put the past behind them for the sake of their families. At first, Daniel was cautious. He knew Sharon's history, her manipulative ways, but her plea seemed genuine enough for him to lower his guard. "I just want peace," Sharon said softly, handing Daniel a glass of water. She watched him closely, her heart racing as he took a sip. What Daniel didn't know was that Sharon had laced the drink with a potent sedative, designed to disarm him without a struggle. Her plan was simple: incapacitate him, make him vulnerable, and punish him when he was powerless. But Sharon's plan began to unravel quickly. As the drug took effect, Daniel felt his head spinning, his vision blurring. He realized too late that something was wrong. He tried to stay alert, his instincts screaming at him to run, to get away from Sharon. He staggered to his feet, making a desperate attempt to escape, but his legs buckled beneath him. He collapsed to the floor, consciousness slipping away. Sharon stood over him, watching as Daniel succumbed to the drug. For a moment, she hesitated. This wasn't how she had envisioned it. Her anger had driven her this far, but now, seeing Daniel vulnerable, she wasn't sure she could go through with it. But her hesitation didn't last long. The memories of her own suffering, her perceived betrayals, pushed her forward. She needed to finish what she started. But then, something unexpected happened. Daniel, fighting through the sedative's effects, began to stir. His eyes flickered open, and with sheer willpower, he forced himself to stand. Sharon hadn't anticipated this. Panic set in as Daniel, now groggy but enraged, lunged at her. What followed was a chaotic struggle. Daniel, still weakened, grabbed hold of Sharon, and the two tumbled to the floor in a violent clash. Sharon fought back, but she was no match for Daniel's physical strength. Her plan to keep control had failed. Now, she was at the mercy of a man she had tried to incapacitate, a man who was quickly losing control of his own temper. The struggle intensified. Sharon's nails dug into Daniel's arms, but his grip on her tightened as he shoved her away. Daniel, now completely overtaken by fury, saw Sharon not as the frail woman she appeared to be, but as the architect of his suffering. She had drugged him, plotted against him, and endangered his life. His mind was clouded, rage consuming him. In the heat of the moment, Daniel's hand found the base of a ceramic vase sitting on the table beside them. Without thinking, driven by pure instinct, he raised it high and brought it crashing down on Sharon's head. The sound of the impact was sickening, a sharp crack that echoed through the room. Sharon crumpled to the floor, blood pouring from the wound on her head. For a moment, there was silence. Daniel stood frozen, staring at Sharon's lifeless form, the reality of what he had done sinking in. His breath came in ragged gasps as he dropped the vase, his hands trembling. He hadn't meant to kill her, it was an accident, a moment of blind rage. But now Sharon was lying there, motionless, a pool of blood slowly spreading across the floor. Daniel's heart raced as the gravity of the situation hit him. Sharon was dead. He had killed her. The shock of it coursed through him, and he took a step back, trying to steady himself. What have I done? His mind screamed at him, panic rising in his chest. Now, Daniel was faced with an impossible decision. He had two choices: he could go to the police, confess what had happened, and face the consequences of his actions. He could tell them that it had been self-defense, that Sharon had attacked him first, that he hadn't meant for any of this to happen. But how would that look? Sharon was a woman with a history of mental illness, and Daniel was a man who had overpowered her.